Okay, hello everybody. For this month's One Step Outside interview, I'm here with Kayla Kurin. I met Kayla, was it October? Back in October in Barcelona for the Digital Nomad conference, and you were talking about traveling with chronic illness, and I thought it was such an important topic, and I'm focusing so much on well-being for myself right now and with my clients, so really happy to have you here and talking to us. Maybe Kayla, you can start by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
So I'm Kayla, and I am a yoga instructor, and I work specifically with people who are living with chronic illness. And I run online classes. That's we meeting at the Digital Nomad Conference. And the reason I do that is because people with chronic illness are obviously spread out all over the world, so they may not necessarily have access to a class that's suitable for them where they're living. And that's kind of why I moved my whole thing online, I guess, almost 4 years ago now.
Amazing. I was just chatting to someone yesterday who was saying, I couldn't possibly do yoga classes online. So that's a great example. I'll let her know that somebody is making it a success. So before we dive into that a bit more, I'd love to ask you, as I ask everybody, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I think that success to me means freedom. And I think I often think of that in terms of the chronic illness when I was really ill. And I went through phases of being mostly bedbound to kind of being able to get through the day and do normal things. And it wasn't fun. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. I couldn't do the sports I loved. I had no idea what would happen with my career, if I would be able to live independently or anything like that. And I think that made me really, really value freedom now, especially now that I'm in recovery and I get to do all these amazing things that I really love. And I'm very aware of how I almost didn't do all those things and how many people are not able to do those things that they love and that they're passionate about.
It's interesting, isn't it? I always think that you never appreciate your health until you don't have it, right? So even just like a cold or a flu or something can feel so debilitating, and then compared to a chronic illness, of course, that's nothing. But it's just being grateful, having that gratitude for being healthy and well, and freedom, of course, being a key value for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you mentioned a few sort of challenges you experienced there, of course, during sort of the worst times, I suppose. What are the specific problems, during the different phases really for you or for the people you work with managing a chronic illness specifically?
Yeah, so I suffered specifically from chronic fatigue syndrome, which is just very, very debilitating fatigue. It can also cause a lot of pain, and it's not just physical fatigue, it's also brain fog. So I was in university at the time, and I just remember sometimes trying to write papers, and I would write a sentence and then be like, that didn't make any sense, and try again. And I could spend like an hour trying to write a sentence that would make sense. And then I work with people with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and Lyme disease and sometimes a few others. So the symptoms do vary a bit, but yeah, basically these unexplained extreme pain or fatigue that nobody knows really what caused or how to make it better.
And of course, you're running sort of that location independent business, both, I guess, for your own sake and also then for your clients, as you were saying. Are there specific challenges you see as an entrepreneur, as a nomad, as a digital nomad in this context? Obviously you've made it work, but what were the issues or challenges you faced?
Yeah, so stress plays a key role in, I think, every single illness. And I think that's one of the reasons yoga and meditation is so effective, is because it really helps you find a way to manage stress. So obviously for me, that was important when I was thinking about what I could do, is I wanted to do something that wasn't going to be a super high intensity career. And I remember I kind of went backpacking, and then I moved to London, and I was just looking at normal jobs. And I was like, oh my God, I can't read one more posting that says thrives in a fast-paced environment. I'm not going to thrive in a fast-paced environment.
Okay, that's good. So some self-awareness there.
Okay. Hello. Sorry, change of location. Wi-Fi issues. Yeah, so I knew that I kind of needed something that was going to be better suited for me, and I wasn't sure that I was going to find that in London. So I decided to start my own business, and I had in my head that I wanted to be a yoga teacher, but I didn't have my credentials yet. So I started freelancing to pay for the yoga teacher training and do that. And so it kind of led to it from there, and I think that I have made a lot of decisions in business because of my health. So, for example, I'm not I never use the word hustle. I never, even in my
Hate the word
freelance,
hustle.
I know it's terrible. Um, I like to take things slow and wait till I find clients or students that are a right fit for me. I'm not very aggressive in my business acquisition because that can be very draining and take a lot of time and energy. And I'm happier to just go slow and wait to find the right fits. But it can still be stressful because you're responsible for everything. Um, when I was first launching the online course for the first time, I was in Greece and there was a freak snowstorm and the power went out and I was like uploading these huge files to
Yeah,
YouTube.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. And people were like starting to email me to be like, "Oh, is it up yet? Is it uploaded? We're looking for it." And that was very stressful. I had to call my boyfriend who was back in London to be like, can you access these through my computer and upload them for me?" So this definitely can be stressful things that you wouldn't necessarily come up with if I was just working for someone else. But I think overall it lets me have a lot more freedom. If I need to take a Wednesday off, I can do that without asking anyone and can schedule meetings and stuff like that in times that work for me. And then the yoga in particular, just teaching yoga, even though it's different than doing my own practice, still I always feel really good and calm and energized afterwards.
And was that a difficult decision then? You said that, you read those job descriptions and it was clear that those weren't sort of the kind of environments that you would thrive in. So was that difficult, or was that an easy choice to go, you know what, I'm going to start my own business and that's going to be much better for me?
Yeah, I think it was difficult because I didn't know if I would be able to start my own business. I didn't really know at that point how I would find clients and things like that. So that part was hard, but choosing to not work for someone else was pretty easy. Yeah, I'd always, in university, I had run my own business and had always liked the idea of it. It was something I just thought I might do in the future, so it just happened much
Yeah.
sooner.
And I mean, I don't know if there's a right answer here, but from your perspective, do you think it's possible to have a chronic illness like the fatigue syndrome, or even, chronic neck and back pain, the kind of thing that isn't conducive to sitting at a desk in a stressful environment? Do you think that is possible to manage within that traditional office environment, or do you think that's just not a good match and actually it's better to break away from that and go the more unconventional route?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the person. I think if you have an office job that you hate and a boss that's not very accommodating, that would be very difficult. But I'm a really big believer in that doing something that you're passionate about and that brings you joy is going to be beneficial to your health no matter what. So I think if you have kind of a more traditional job in an office that you really love, then I think that it can work. But you might just have to search for the right team environment so that people are accommodating for you, and maybe there's flex days where you can work from home, or just people understand what you're going through.
And you've mentioned, yoga, of course, that you're teaching that and doing your own practice. What are some of the other strategies that you use then while you're on the road, while you cope with those terrible sort of power cuts and stressful situations? What do you do, and what do you help your clients do as well?
Yeah, so I do yoga and I also do a lot of meditation as well, and a few other kind of yoga slash meditation techniques that don't involve movement, which can be helpful for if you're traveling, if you're stuck on a long train or flight, but also if you're too ill to move that day, can be very helpful. I'm also very mindful of what I eat, and the kind of environments that I expose myself to. So London, again, was very, very hard for me because of the pollution, all kinds of pollution, like actual pollution, but also just the amount of people that were there, the amount of light that was there was very hard for me. And Barcelona was a much better fit for me because there's such easy access to nature. It's not quite as busy. It's a bit easier to get fresh fruits and vegetables. So yeah, really thinking about my environment and where I am and how those external factors can impact your health.
And how easy is that? Because that sounds very sort of simple and okay, you consider these decisions, but actually compared to just staying in the same place, going to your office job every day in London, that sounds like a lot of decisions. It's important decisions, but that does sound potentially quite overwhelming. How do you find that, choosing locations and jobs and clients and so on based on those parameters?
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming, and I'm a very terrible decision maker in general. So yeah, it can get very tough, but then at the same time, knowing that my health is such a priority and that if I make the wrong decision for my health, because I think it would be cool to live somewhere else or cool to take on this really big client that I don't necessarily have the capacity for, that's an easy decision to say, like, no, wait a
Hmm.
minute. If I do that, that could just wipe me out, and then I won't be able to do any of these things. So sometimes the decision is easy, but then sometimes it can be like, oh, do I want to live in Spain or in Greece?
A
That
lot of
kind
options, actually.
of, yeah,
That's a good
yeah,
freedom, as you said, to have.
yeah.
And if someone's listening to this and, either in that job and sort of considering maybe going a different route to manage their chronic illness or,
Mm.
well, even just suffering from these issues and feeling inspired by you and so on, can you give sort of one action they can take today, one step that you'd recommend that will help them in this situation and create that freedom maybe that you talked about as well that's so important?
hmm I think if you can find one thing to do mindfully, so it could be yoga or meditation, but it could be anything. It could be eating, it could be showering, it could be washing the dishes. Just do one thing today for, at least 2 minutes where you're really paying attention to what's going on in your body and inside you and just seeing how that feels to be really aware. Because I think starting with that awareness for me was really integral to understanding what made me feel better and what made me feel worse and what factors were really going on. And for me, that helped me understand how kind of all my systems were interconnected and it wasn't just one thing, it was all the things. So, I mean, that's very big, far down the road, but I think if you can just take a few moments today to do something mindfully,
Well,
that's
that sounds
extra.
like good advice for all of us, right? Whatever our
Mhm.
health
Yeah.
situation.
hmm
And you've written a book, right? Can you tell us a bit more about
hmm
that?
Yeah, so I wrote a book on yoga for chronic pain, and it's the first in a series of 4 books. So
Oh,
there's
great.
going to be, yeah, there'll be for chronic fatigue, for Lyme disease, and for insomnia as well, will be coming up. And yeah, it's available on Amazon. So it's Yoga for Chronic Pain, 7 Steps to Aid Recovery from Fibromyalgia through Yoga. And it's kind of the companion book to a mini online course, which is 10 minutes for 10 days and $10. So it's a great way if you want to start making a daily
Yeah,
practice.
amazing. Make sure to link to
Yeah.
that. And where can people find you? Either that course as you mentioned, or the online yoga
Mhm.
classes and so on. Where can we find you in the online space?
Yeah, so my business name is Aroga Yoga. So my website is arogayoga.com, and there's a little free videos tab and an online course tab. So you can find all that stuff. And I'm also on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook with the same name.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing your personal story a little bit and then giving some great advice. And again, I think it's important for all of us who want to manage our health and well-being and stress levels and so on. So thank you so much, Kayla, for your time.
Thank you.